Hey, took me a minute. Tonight on the Mac to the Future, episode number 84. Happy New Year, shut up! Does Tim Cook have an iPhone problem? Netflix is forcing people to sign up for their service outside of Apple. Whoops, sorry about that other microphone. Air power when it isn't a windmill turbine. Samsung says watches and shoes are the exact same thing. And also, hell freezes over tonight on the Mac to the Future show. Whoa! And hello, everybody. It is another Mac to the Future show, and it is going to be. We actually have more stories tonight than we ever have before, because that's the way that this sometimes works. So here we are. We're having a good time. We also have a full crew tonight. We have. Let's see. I'm going to go here in order that I have them here listed. First up is Mr. Warren Sklar. How are you today, sir?
I'm good. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. I feel like I just talked to you, though.
Yeah, well, you kind of just did.
I just did.
Yeah.
Yeah, we're busy. We didn't get together last week, so we got lots of stories to go.
We do. And we also have Mr. David Ginsburg. How are you, sir?
Doing well, thanks.
Look at it. I even got all the lower thirds. The lower thirds are
got
working.
'em, yeah. Happy New Year to you as well.
Happy New Year.
It's it's been too long. Yeah, we got a lot of stories to talk about tonight.
And well, did you guys do anything fun or exciting for New Year's?
No. Went out to dinner and at the stroke of midnight, I looked at my Apple Watch and saw the fireworks. That was exciting.
Oh, really?
Whoa.
Oh, man.
The
Colors,
the fireworks
patterns.
go off on your Apple Watch when it strikes midnight on New Year's Day.
Huh.
We had the neighbors over, and
you don't like the neighbors, I can tell.
No, we do, but we didn't like the New Year's Eve shows were just not good this year, and we
the
had
local
CNN.
ones here were horrible.
Well, why do they still call it? Why do they still call it Dick Clark's Rockin' Eve?
Because his legacy.
It's his show. It was his
Well,
company's show.
Legacy.
It's more like, isn't it more like Ryan Seacrest's show now?
No, Ryan,
Yeah, but
he's just filling the shoes. Yes.
Carrying on the
Well, until David comes back. Or
No,
not
until
David,
Ryan Seacrest, Dick Clark.
Dick Clark, yeah. Until Dick Clark comes back.
from another. Yeah, no, he ain't coming back.
He's in a cryo chamber.
Cryogenic freeze.
Yeah.
They have his head. It'll be like Futurama.
And you? How was your
Well,
New Year's?
we also went out to dinner with some neighbors. We went to this really nice restaurant, and after Christmas,
Wait, I'm the only one without a hat.
I know. And well, should I switch you guys around so that we're like bookends, or is that just too weird?
That's too weird.
Well, see, I wear this hat because I'm bald, so I don't know what David's reason is. He just likes Macstock, I think.
He's just trying to be like you.
Oh yeah, because that's something to shoot for. That's something everybody wants to be like Guy. Yeah.
All right,
like
busy day,
Macstock.
busy day.
You're right.
Okay.
Let's get started. We got a lot to talk about here.
People want to
We
hear
do.
about Apple stuff. So.
All right. So, Tim Cook's iPhone problem. This is a story on CNN. Yeah, but I mean, this is where I pulled this from. According to CNN and a few other sites, nearly the entire issue with Tim Cook, Apple, and iPhones is because of the following reasons. And play along with me here, guys. Tim Cook isn't Steve Jobs, which apparently Jobs wasn't either. Number 2, Apple isn't innovating, and neither is anyone else. Number 3, stales are stagnant. Stales. Other than the U.S. and Europe, which had record-breaking activation, stales are stagnant.
Sales are stale.
Yeah, they're stealing sales.
Stealing sales or still.
Yeah.
Sorry.
China sales, number 4. China sales are less than expected. Couldn't be because of shaky trade relations between the U.S. and China. Nah. Number 5. India's sales were mediocre at best. Odd how people choose eating over an iPhone because there's almost no middle class in India. Got to use another hand now. 6. Services can't be expected to grow forever to make up for less iPhone sales. Except when they can. And number 7, they should make a car / TV set / wackadoodle that isn't part of their core because that always works. And again, this story pays bare lip service to the problems of trade relations between the U.S., China, and India, and for China encouraging local sales over foreign brands. So what do you guys think?
It's a lot. Do you want to start? Who's starting?
Go ahead, Dave.
Go ahead. Well, I mean, there was also, if anybody doesn't know, I mentioned this before the show, is Tim Cook did get interviewed by Jim Cramer from CNBC, and he did talk about China with the trade problems in India, where the challenges were. I think more challenges were with India were just trying to get them to buy in and let them sell the phone there and get it manufactured there. And I think that's what the big holdup with India was. But I don't know. I mean, he was asked about the 10R, and he came back and said, "No, I don't think the 10R is selling okay. It's making it." So
isn't it their like number 1 phone for November?
Yeah. No, it was still selling very well. So I mean, come on. I mean, they're still selling a ton of phones. I mean, let's face it. Yeah, the numbers are not like they should be for the stockholders. I didn't even look what the stock was today. Yeah, the stock's back up another $10 back up from what it was a week ago. I mean,
of course,
so it's coming back. I mean, it just everybody got very emotional, saying, "No, I'm selling. I'm bailing out. I kept it in my investments. I'm not doing anything. I'm sitting tight."
Well, I'm sure you bought much lower than this. And where it's at now.
I mean, I've had it for a while. I mean, I've had it for a long time. It's invested in my 401k. So, I think this was the market itself was having a lot of problems as it is. I mean,
yeah.
So if you look at the stock itself, yeah, it's the market that was reacting in general, and Apple did have a little bit of effect on it, which is great amazing if you think about it.
Yeah.
A company like Apple can affect the market that
greatly.
That greatly. I mean, it's just crazy. But he even said in the interview there are going to be more services this year. He wouldn't elaborate, of course, but that's that. But he still said
TV service. Sorry, excuse me.
Yeah, he still said that there was going to be some sort of new services out there, whether it be TV, streaming TV, or anything related to that. Which I'm feeling pretty confident it's probably going to be something like that. So I mean. Let's face it. Yeah, I mean the iPhone has had a great run. I mean, but they have to start. The key word, like we said, is innovation. They haven't been innovating as much as they should be. Johnny Ive pretty much has stepped aside and is not doing much anymore. I mean that affected a little bit. So.
But I mean, what other company is innovating right now? I mean, we're getting iterations of the same thing as far as electronics go. The only company I can think of that's really done anything that's kind of innovative lately is Nintendo with the Switch. Yeah, I mean that was a huge leap, and the way that product was set up, that's like an amazing product. It's completely different from what everybody else is doing. But as far as phones go, who's doing anything exciting in phones? Nobody. Nobody's. They're putting in better cameras. They're putting in multi-core chips, and for Android, you kind of have to do that anyway. They're putting in more and more memory, and it's like okay, so next year it's going to be the same kind of thing, right? So I don't know. What do you think, Warren?
Well, on that point, I mean, for phones, there's not a lot we could envision happening. I mean, we know where it's going. We know it's going with faster, lighter, and all that, better cameras. But there'll be, I think, augmented reality is going to be involved with the phone. VR is a thing. It's it's the next thing, I think. There's going to be back to the original topic, though. It was more about innovation aside. It's more about expectations, right? Because Apple should have done a better job of knowing what was expected going into all these avenues that they were going into. The only thing they probably did not know was the China trade war, when they were starting to do a lot of these numbers were coming together, and that could have a big effect on it. But everything else was known things, going into India, going into China, making older phones last longer, improving the software, the battery replacement program. These are all things that they knew were happening. So, my only thought is Apple should underestimate more in the future.
Well, that's what a lot of analysts say. That's what they do already, and which is kind of the reason why in some people's eyes, Apple says, "Well, we're going to do X," and then they come out and do Y, and it's like 5 to 10% higher than what they had estimated.
No,
and
they should go to W now. So they should lower.
bring a letter back. Bring a letter back.
Yeah, let's get too high. So they that again, they made, what was it, this year the profit was 70 million instead of 85 million or something. Billion.
Well, they had estimated that their revenue was going to be 89 million or 89 billion with a B.
And they got 70 or something like that.
No, it was like 84. It was a reduction of 7 to 8%. They were significantly off, but it wasn't like, it was like, oh, the sky's falling. They're down 20, 30, 40%. It was 7%, which is well within the realm of possibility when you're talking about finances.
Right. But money people don't know technology. They know money, and they just want to see that. They want to see it go up. So
that's what the shareholders want to see.
Yeah, that's all they want to see. So they're going. Maybe this is a transition. Maybe they're going to services more. Definitely, they're going to services more.
Well, it's their biggest. It's their growth. It's what they have growth in right now.
Yeah, because right now it's. I mean, before Netflix, we wouldn't have thought that it was even a thing. It's a scary thing to go into services because you don't know what the future is going to hold for services. That's something that could change a lot. Netflix.
Well, it only works if you can get people to buy into your services.
Yeah, but it's more of a gamble than hardware, I think, and software, because it's a medium, right? It's a medium that could change, and medium changes a lot.
The weird thing is, I was listening to Tim and Dave over on the Tech Fan podcast, and anyone who's watching this, if you don't get Tech Fan, I highly recommend it. And Tim brought up IBM. IBM went from having a thriving computer business, hardware business, and they sold it off to Lenovo, and then turned around and went 100% into services. And when that all happened, that was 10 years ago, I think. When that whole thing happened, the money people went nuts. I mean, they were like, "Whoa, what do you mean you're going to get rid of all your hardware? You're like the number one computer maker in the world," and blah, 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 blah. And IBM was like, "Yeah, you know what? It's a commodity, and we're not interested in servicing a commodity."
Right.
And so
10
they
years from
dropped
now,
out of
10
it.
years from now, if Apple says, we might be looking back and say, remember when Apple was a hardware company and they made hardware? Yeah. It's entirely possible. I mean, it could have happened.
Services are very profitable. I mean, it's just not a physical item that you have to make. And that's why.
Yeah, but you have to make it compatible with as many physical items as you can, which kind of leads into our next story.
It leads into the next story, but right, and that's the thing. if they could get services on anything that's out there at this point and doesn't have to be an Apple product, then
Right.
they may not be a hardware company. My only last point on the story is, a lot of press, mostly press, I guess, not really the investors, but press, we're pushing a point of the price of the iPhone is contributing to the issues that they're having. People aren't buying the iPhones because A, they're expensive, and B, they're the software update help their older phones.
Sure.
So I mean, from a consumer point of view, yeah, it's not good for the company and the stock, but maybe it could help bring down the price of some of the hardware, which is, it's gotten more expensive.
It's not, but go ahead.
I mean, it's always been expensive, but it's continually getting more expensive on the laptop side, on the desktop side, and on the phones. Yeah. So,
but at the same time, I mean, these are items that are typically lasting 3 to 5 years on average, where you don't have to go and, like, if you look at the high end Android phones, which are anywhere from let's say, just throw a number out there, $500 to $700, as compared to Apple's $1,100 for a 10 with 256 gigs of storage. Most people that are buying Android phones are replacing them 1 to 2 years down the line because they can't get updates for them unless they get a Google phone. So, if you're buying a new phone every 2 years as compared to every 3 to 4 years with an iPhone, who's spending more money?
It's not the point. The point is, it's been like that with Apple forever.
Well, it has.
But if the prices still get higher and higher each year, that's not the point. I mean,
right?
It's getting more expensive. I mean, let's say I only upgrade every 2 years. Well, 2 years ago when I bought my iPhone 7, it was X amount of dollars, and now, or my 6, it was X amount, and now it's XX amount of dollars.
Well, do you think that in a country like China or India, if they dropped their price from $1,100 to $900, that it would make a significant impact on their sales? I don't think it would.
I think in a country like America, it would.
It would here, but this is a relatively saturated market. Your growth is going to be in emerging markets. It's not going to be in Western Europe, and it's not going to be in the United States. It's going to be in places like Africa or India or China or, some of the, you hate to say it like that, but less affluent parts of the world that are starting to, to kind of come up a little bit.
So what's the point? I mean, the phones are still getting more expensive even with these.
The phones are getting more expensive, but dropping the price by even 25%. Like, say because Apple's margins are roughly 35 to 40%. So they have a lot of wiggle room.
Yeah, I'm not saying drop the price. I'm saying stop with the increase. So the media perception and the consumer perception is that they're increasing the price of their devices, and it's true. So when people come up to me and when I have to convince my wife to buy a phone, and it's $1,000, it's a lot harder to convince her when it was $700. We're talking basic economy. I mean, the more expensive things get, and if they get more expensive as they go, then people will hit a breaking point everywhere, whether emergent market or the UK or the US, it doesn't matter. Apple obviously was toying with the idea of making their new phones pricier than the old ones last year with the iPhone 10. And I think they had a good run with it, and they're continuing it with the new phones, except for the 10R, which is probably a good deal. But it's a perception out there, and people are angry, and that's why you're getting a lot of these reports and a lot of these clickbait articles saying Apple has a huge problem. And you read it, and basically it's like, oh, the problem is the phone's $12.99. Well, we know that, but that's That's what it's
That's
going
where
on.
Apple puts it in the market as far as the
But
price.
I mean, where do you make? I mean, anywhere you make a cut, if you're making a 20 to 25% cut, you're cutting into the margins, and this is something that. And I'm going to ask Dave this. That's something that is almost a sacred cow at Apple. So if you make cuts to, say, the phones that go into India, or you create a phone for the Indian market that is, say, less capable so that they can sell it for a lower price, how does that still be considered an iPhone if it can't do all the same things that, like, the 10 and the 10R can?
I mean, the rumor was for India they were gonna do the iPhone 10. They were gonna remanufacture it and put very similar features to what the 10R and the 10s has. So, and again, I hate to go back to the interview with Tim Cook, but he flat out said that we're not looking to have cheap phones. We're selling the experience. We're selling what the customer likes and what the customer enjoys. So I just don't see. I mean, those markets they're trying to get in because they're hard to get in as far as, especially India, and like you said, there's not the middle classes. There's not a lot, and they want to have a phone out that's available that's going to be affordable. I mean, China. What you don't need to do about China. I mean, it's just the trade issues that are going on between the U.S. and China. So I mean, so like I say, you can't. There's not really much else that they can do other than they got to keep trying to get into these emerging markets.
Well, there's also a perception, and I've seen some reports on this, in that the Chinese government, while not officially saying anything, is encouraging people to buy more local phones. Not necessarily phones that are manufactured in China, because that's like all of them, but phones that are sourced and designed and created and all the rest of that in China. So because it's not just Apple that has felt the bite of this. Samsung and some of the other high-end makers that aren't Chinese are also reporting that their high-end phone sales are kind of in the toilet as well.
Yeah, and in the chat room, Josh just says that's what people means they're going to wait longer to upgrade. That's true. I mean, they're going to wait longer because I mean, especially the ones that got their battery upgraded before the end of the year. I mean, he talked about that too. So I mean, I don't know, we're going all over on tangents here with this discussion. So
what?
But it's not rocket science.
That isn't.
Current phone lasts longer, works fine. New phone is more expensive than it was last year.
So they're not upgraded.
I mean, I just doing my iPhone class I taught last night in the Apple user group. I mean, that's the people we were that was the exact conversation we were having about. People are just keeping these devices longer, whether it be an iPhone or an iPad. I mean,
there's nothing wrong with that.
There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, having a 6 or a 6S is a perfectly good phone.
And remember, I'm going to get the last word here before we move on.
No,
I will. Damn it. The other thing to remember is that in a situation where you have a market that is not really saturated, but where most of the people that are going to buy a high-end smartphone have a high-end smartphone, Apple's retention rate is like 85 to 90%. So that means 85 to 90% of people that buy an iPhone are most likely going to buy another iPhone down the line, whether that's next year or whether that's 3 years down the road, it doesn't matter. It's still an eventual sale for Apple. All right. We were talking about Apple's services, and there was something in the news that kind of just made me shake my head and go, what? Has hell frozen over? And for those who have been
turning in his grave,
following Apple news for a while, there was this little lawsuit that Apple had with another company that lasted like forever. The company was Samsung. Well, now it turns out they've just made announcements and they're kind of showing them off in CES, and there's other companies involved in this as well. But Samsung is going to incorporate some Apple services in their new and recent TVs. So if you've bought a Samsung TV in the last year, or you're planning on buying a new TV, a new Samsung TV, within the next year, you can get that with some Apple services. iTunes, so anything, iTunes movies and television shows that are available, you can purchase directly through a Samsung TV without having to get an Apple TV. You can also, and it's not just that, you can also view your already purchased content. So if you have movies or TV shows or what have you that is located within iTunes, you'll be able to watch that without an external box. It'll be built into the TV set. And this, considering and looking at the history of something like the Apple TV, Apple has never really made a huge push for people to purchase Apple TVs. It's always been that kind of bastard stepchild that's been, oh yeah, and we've updated the Apple TV, and they throw it out there, but it's never gotten the attention that the iPhones and iPods, iPads, and even when new models of the Mac come out, it's always kind of that. And here's person X who works in marketing in Mobile, Alabama, is going to come out and talk to us about the Apple TV. There's never been the big push. There's never been the big splashy presentation for the Apple TV. So maybe
it's hard
as a hobby.
Yeah.
Well, the other thing too. The other thing too is you're talking about Samsung, but they also announced other manufacturers like Vizio and Sony and LG are also going to be incorporating this into their TVs soon too in the smart TV market. I see its point of it being getting more eyeballs, getting more people that are really going to be into doing this without having to buy an Apple TV. And that's what's interesting. Maybe Apple is kind of stepping away a little bit from the Apple TV because you gotta consider the Apple TV is kind of pricey for what it does. You get a 4K Apple TV, it starts $150, and
it's also not very interesting. To me, right. It's not a very compelling device. It's more of a necessary device if you want to do the things it does. Right. I don't know about you guys, but I never use any apps other than the video apps, Netflix, Amazon.
Yeah, I use other apps.
I'm not. No, we're not sitting there playing games.
And these are built into almost every TV. Most of those.
Right, but you got the TV App Store in there, which is, which I think they missed their chance on, and I think they could have competed with the Switch if they did it right, and they really didn't. We got iPads and we got iPhones, and you got the Apple TV. There could have been a slew of good apps and games that you could have used in a family setting that they never did. There's game show games.
Do you think that Apple? I don't think Apple really made that big of a push as far as apps goes. I think when they were transitioning between the Apple TV 3 and the Apple TV 4, the current one, or I'm sorry, the one before the current one and the one before that. Right. The 2 and the 3, I guess. The reason why I think they went to apps is that going forward, it was an easier way to manage content than the way that the original Apple TV and the first square hockey puck one that came out was doing. So
yeah, but there's app stores, there's games that you can play on the Apple TV, and there's things you could do on the Apple TV.
Yeah,
and
but they're not that interesting.
When they first announced it, you remember it was the fashion.
Yeah.
Right, but they could have, if they did it right.
They could have designed a better controller.
It could have been a Switch. It could have been every kid has an iPad or iPad Mini or something like that, or their phone, and they play games, and then when they come into their living room, it just kind of integrates together, and they miss a chance. It's not a very exciting device. If my TV did what these TVs are saying to do, which is AirPlay 2, which I'll talk about in a second, and getting iTunes on it, and if there's Netflix and Amazon Prime, then I don't need an Apple TV. There's no need for it.
No, you aren't going
And in fact, with the AirPlay 2, if you could AirPlay 2 out the audio to HomePods from the TV, I think that would be awesome. I don't know if that's going to happen, but right now you could do it from the Apple TV, but that means it's only at whatever you're watching on the Apple TV. So if the TV itself could AirPlay to the HomePods or the Sonos speakers, you got yourself a nifty little surround sound system there.
Yeah. Well, they're sort of, they're kind of making the current, if you're into Apple's home automation, one of the things that makes it a little bit easier is having an Apple TV. That a lot of the
or a HomePod.
Oh God, what is it called?
The Home Hub.
No, not so much that, but just the whole ecosphere for Apple's
HomeKit.
HomeKit. Thank you. For some reason, I was drawing a blank on that. You can manage all that on your Mac, or you can manage all that through your phone, or you can manage it through your iPad. But to have a stationary device in your living room that is going to take care of all that for you, that's I think a much better way to go than having to go, where's my phone, or where's my iPad, or however it was that you've kind of worked on it before.
It doesn't even do such a great job at doing it. I mean,
well, I don't know, because I haven't bought into home automation because honestly, I just don't see the point of it yet. This is still relatively, this is like people going out and buying a self-driving car. It's great. The concept of it is great, but you can't just get in your car and say, car, take me to work, and it's going to back out of your driveway and take you all the way to work, or car, take me to Macstock in Woodstock, Illinois. And it just can't do it.
Yeah, but the self-driving car is a lot different than home automation. I mean,
well, it's certainly more dangerous, but the technology to get it done is still in its infant stage.
But the dangerous is the thing. I mean, that's the dangerous part of it is why self-driving cars are going to take a lot longer than anything else in that stage, because it's dangerous. Turning on the lights with a HomeKit or an Amazon device is not going to kill you or kill somebody else.
No, but it's also not that exciting.
It is. I mean, maybe you're not into it, but
well, I mean, it's not game changing.
I just dabbled into it, so I find it to be exciting. I mean, I was with you, guy. I hadn't dabbled into HomeKit at all, and then all of a sudden, for Christmas, I asked for power plugs. One like this. I mean, it's a
right.
Power plug. I mean, and I'm very impressed with this thing. I mean, I got 4 different plugs. I set them up. And just plugs. I didn't get bulbs. I didn't get a hub or any of that kind of stuff. And now I've got two plugs grouped together, so I have 2 lights that can go on and off in a scene in my bedroom. I mean, I have them in my living room. And then I'm now finding it to be something that's exciting. Like I said, I wasn't as excited about it before. But I mean, it's gonna continue to evolve. It's a huge market.
And it is. I mean, it is maturing, and I have the Amazon version of it too, and I hadn't spent that much money on doing this, and just to be able to do scenes or turn things on, it's a thing. So I mean
you got to be
okay.
Into it. I mean, there's people, you got to get into it.
You don't
have to get into it. But.
No, right now, go, run out, buy that stuff now.
So I think the Apple TV is going to probably be an afterthought if they do this.
It seems like it.
Yeah, it's going to go away. I can't see, for the most part, going forward. And this is, when a lot of the TV manufacturers were talking about integrating this kind of thing, one of the first things that they did was they started integrating something like Roku, and Roku as a company was like, sure, yeah, you can buy into our UI and you can buy into our protocols and get our hardware into your TV sets, But I don't think the integration was that great because Roku, I don't believe, had much say into the UI and how it works. Now, we haven't heard anything yet or seen much how Apple is going to kind of, is Apple going to have any say into the UI that's going to be built into this? Or is it going to be more along the lines of the Motorola Rocker, where they just have this device and, it's up to the TV manufacturers to implement it however they want?
No, it's going to be like the Windows version.
You got a crap experience.
It's going to be like the Windows version of iTunes or the Android version of Apple Music. It's going to be something like that. And
well, I'm not even really so much talking about iTunes itself, but just how do you get to iTunes? How do you get to the various other applications that are going to be built into these TV sets? Is it going to be a similar experience to what Apple has with the Apple TV? Yeah. The pictures I've seen so far, it's a bar on the bottom of the screen that comes up, and then you've got the various apps there. I don't know if that's really
I have
a winner.
A Samsung TV in my basement area, and it has the smart TV. I hadn't started utilizing it much. Unfortunately, I think mine is going to not have this update because it's, I believe, a 2017, so it's a year before the 2018. So I'm going to be out of luck. But anyway, it still has all these other apps that you can add to the smart TV, and it added Prime Video, it added Hulu, it added all those other services too. So you don't necessarily have to get into it, but it does have the interface there. So
it's super not that hard to put these things on TVs. Verizon Fios has now a channel you could type in, and it brings me to Netflix. So. Right. Apple could go to Verizon probably and say, hey, you know what? Make channel 589 Apple TV. And I'm sure they could do it.
And there's another market. Because Comcast has already been doing it, Xfinity Comcast, with their X1 technology. They've already added Netflix. They've already added Prime Video.
Sure.
Who knows?
Well, you know why they're doing this, though.
Oh, because they know people are cutting the cable. They want to get
exactly,
service, and they want people to stick into their services.
There's a company that services a lot of the Northeast I think it's called Tango, and they have the franchise rights and own a lot of the CBS stations in this area, and they resolved it, but there was a big to-do with Verizon Fios. And all these CBS stations went dark because they couldn't agree. Basically, Tango, from what I was reading, wanted this huge increase in rebroadcast rights. And Verizon was like, well, we don't want to pass those kinds of costs on to our customers. And when you have services, and when you're talking about broadcast TV, what we used to get over the old rabbit ears, this is all ad sponsored and ad supported. So why is Tango and all of these other companies coming out and saying, well, you have to pay us more money in order to rebroadcast this stuff because what we're getting in ads isn't enough to support our business?
No, they want these carriers to pay their fair share. But look what CBS did. CBS created their own service, All Access. I'm not thrilled to want
and
to have
screwed
to pay
that up.
And they screwed that up too. But shows like Star Trek Discovery is only on that All Access. So if I want to be able to watch it, I have to pay for that service separately.
Yeah, $5.99, and then you still get ads.
Yeah, and that's $10 if you want no ads.
Yeah, and you know what? That's bullshit. That's nonsense. You're gonna charge me for a television show that is going to have ads to support it. But then you also want me to pay for that, and we're not going to talk about the next story. We're just going to stay on this for a while, I guess.
Okay.
The CBS app and what they give you, some of what they give you besides just broadcast on demand, is access to the huge library of not only CBS content, but Paramount content, which of course is Star Trek. Going all the way back into the 50s. They had, I Love Lucy, They had, going a little bit farther, they had Taxi and I think All in the Family and all these classic television shows. But they didn't have all the episodes, just the episodes that they decided that they were going to give to you. And this isn't a service that you're paying for. And, you know, this for me, if you're going to charge me per station to watch something and it's an on-demand kind of service and that's fine, don't give me ads. I will pay for it. Don't give me ads. That's the part that really hacked me off. And then Star Trek Discovery comes out, and it's not that freaking good, in my opinion.
Well, content's another thing.
Yeah.
I mean, Hulu, that's not CBS's
Hulu does
fault.
the same thing. I mean, Hulu does the same thing. They have 2 tiers of
And
service.
I don't pay for Hulu.
Right. I mean, they had
I
intro
have
offers, so I took it. And it was 99 cents a month, and I'm gonna watch it for a while. But they have the same thing. You could buy but the thing is, even that they charge that $14 a month for supposedly no ads, you're still gonna see some ads.
Yeah.
Which is really even
If you're
more
watching content that isn't Hulu specific, it's CBS or NBC or ABC or
Right.
Fox or whatever the local stations are, you're still going to get ads.
The streaming services are a mess. They're not
They
ready
are.
yet. The cable companies are not worried yet. They're thinking about it. And
They're
figuring
very
it out.
worried.
They're getting.
I
they're-
think
they're-
cable
I don't
companies
agree
are
with that.
scared crapless.
They're not, because you still need the
They're not
internet, and most of the
You can
what
get
come
internet
pay-
separate, and these cable they're already set. ISPs are already setting themselves up for this, where I can go to Verizon right now and say I don't want telephone, I don't want a landline, and I don't want your cable service, but I do want high-speed internet. And yes, it's going to cost me more than if I bundled it with all these other services.
Right.
But I mean, like right now, I don't want to say what our cable bill is, but it's freaking outrageous.
Okay.
And if I go to just internet, it's going to be less than half of that.
Yeah, but listen, Verizon, just like the thing you were talking about, Verizon had the thing where they didn't want to pay ABC up here.
Sure.
It's expensive, a lot of money. Verizon and Xfinity will save money and make a whole lot of money if they went just to an internet service and let everybody else figure out how the hell to get their own content. They would love it. It's not cheap for them, and I don't think they're making that much money off it.
But they are making money, and
They're not making
I
money.
think they'll make more money off the internet service than anything. Plus, they're all going to do the 5G. They're all going to make that kind of money.
well, if I go to internet only, I'm going to be paying less than half of what I'm paying right now for cable,
See, and
to have
then,
television included.
mean,
That's
now-
not making
now
them
it-
more money.
And now what
I'm sure it
Xfinity
does.
Comcast is doing is they're offering a streaming service. They had never offered that before. They wanted you to get the cable service. Now you can. I just started seeing this advertised the other day because it's already included in my service because I have the physical boxes. But now you can, they already have Xfinity Stream, and just like all the other companies on your mobile devices. But you can now. I mean, who knows? They're going to look at even being able to stream in boxes like Roku. I think they were working with Roku on that. So.
As long as the human race needs internet, people providing the internet are going to make money. They're not.
No,
you're not
I agree
going to hear
with you. I agree
about
with you on that.
Sure.
I mean, internet is going to be a moneymaker no matter what.
that's how they're going to survive. Fios is going to, in 5 years, they're probably all going to be just internet providing service.
And I can't
Yeah,
wait.
I don't think they can wait either. I think they're waiting for that too, because it's probably a lot easier than dealing with contracts with all these stupid content providers.
Well, it's the difference between the technical side of providing a service like this and the money side, because the money people are like, oh my God, no, we can't lose all these cable companies, all these cable subscribers, because it's going to cut our income in half. Because it's not like you have a finite market in a lot of these places, and when you have a monopoly in quite a few of them. So if you've got like one or two cable, like in the Washington, D.C. area, the big two is Cox and Verizon Fios. And there's a few others, but those are the big two. And they're splitting it between them. And you're not going to have a huge swing one way or the other. So if 75% of these people suddenly drop their cable part of it and just get internet, that's going to be a huge loss of income for both of these companies.
They will
Of course they'll figure it out.
Because to give Guy internet is just running the wire to Guy's house. It doesn't cost
already
that
there.
much money. Right. Yeah. To give Guy HBO and CBS, me, Xfinity or Verizon, has to pay CBS or ABC
sure
a certain
for
amount
rebroadcast rights.
Right. So that's, basically everybody needs internet. They're going to sell it. And, you said it's going to be half of what you're paying now. Believe me, they'll be fine. They want, their future is they want people just to get the internet service. And I think right now they're just doing a transition thing until it's works, because right now there's not one good service out there. And if Apple could come up with their thing that's going to be great, then it will do great. But there's nothing out there that has every channel that you're going to want to watch, except for cable. And that's how we are now. Believe me, if Apple came out with something, this year that was a service that basically for less than what you would pay Comcast or Verizon and gave you the same access to that stuff, everybody will move to that. That's how it's going to go. But it's not there yet.
Well, okay.
And then internet itself, the tiers are changing too. I mean, I never could get gig speed internet in my home. They just started offering it, and I jumped on it. I mean, they're only charging me an additional $20 on what I'm already normally paying.
Me too.
And the speeds are awesome. They pretty much gave it to me because I said, because I started testing my speeds and I wasn't getting true gig speed internet. And then, of course, I don't expect that on Wi-Fi. But I tested on the wire connection. I was still only getting like maybe 700, 800 megabit speeds. But should I be complaining?
But that's still,
but it's
that's
still
like
great.
amazing.
I know it's amazing. It really is. But when I went back to them just to complain because I'm still paying. We're still paying a good amount of money for the service. I go back and says, well, what's going to cost me to downgrade? Well, I'll pay just about the same I'm paying for this package now. So why am I even bothering to mess with it? Just leave it be then. Because I'll go down to 150 megabit speeds, but you're only paying like $20 less than what you're already paying now for gig speed. So
well, that's what they're counting on.
That's the thing.
But that's what
they're counting on. So that's
the
what
infrastructure.
happened. So
the infrastructure is there to provide to get you gigabyte internet or gigabit internet. Doesn't cost them anything than if you weren't even paying them for it's done. Right, and 5G is going to be even more done when they shoot their satellite up there. Basically, everybody could get 5G. It's not going to be cheap. But Verizon's going to say you're going to pay $150 a month instead of for that box in your house for our satellite beam for your 5G. And Verizon's like, come on, bring them in, get everybody. They'll want everybody, and because it doesn't cost any more money to beam it for one person or 1,000 people. It's there.
All right. Well, why don't we go over to some of the comments that we've gotten tonight?
Oh, yeah. Okay.
Let's see. There were some comments about Tim Cook getting a big bonus. Some people thought I was on point about something, so I have to question their sanity. Some stuff about Ring.
What was that?
Somebody's buying donuts. Thank you, Yvonne. If you're buying donuts, I'd like Krispy Kremes, please. Those are my favorite. Marcus Benjamin wants to talk about rocket science. No.
Sure.
Let's see. TV this is from Josh. Apple TV has been critical in my move away from cable TV. It has replaced all of our cable boxes. However, we don't really use it for games. My kids would prefer to use their iPad. Sure.
Yeah, because why would you want to annoy your spouse or your parents with whatever you want to play on the big TV?
He also likes the Apple TV because he knows he'll get his updates. TV app doesn't always get updated. Let's see. Have fun, guy. Blah, blah, blah. What else? Marcus Benjamin talking about his Samsung 4K that he got at Sam's Club. Makes him hardly turn his TV on anymore, his Apple TV on anymore.
And I think I do this. I've been holding off of getting a TV, but I think I might get a new TV this year if they do this iTunes AirPlay 2 thing.
Well, we have two Vizios. We have in the bedroom we have a 42-inch, and downstairs we have a 55-inch that I just got about 2 years ago. But the TV that we spend most time watching, oddly enough, is the one in the bedroom. So if it becomes a compelling reason and it's not too outrageous to get it, yeah. And if it's on Vizio, because I am not a fan of Samsung TVs, just based on past experience with a couple of them. But my Vizios have been rock solid, going on 10 years now. So if Vizio has something similar to what Samsung is doing, where you can get iTunes and some of the same kinds of services that Apple TV has, then yeah, I'll probably get a new one for the bedroom. Also based on what might be happening as far as the job situation goes, but that's a whole nother story. Gotcha. Do you guys have anything else before we wrap it up tonight?
No, I mean I
think we had some really good lively conversation on both these. These are some pretty heavy topics.
These are heavy topics.
Yeah, we were going to talk about that there was no air power in 2018.
What?
And
oh wow!
I know.
Oh wow!
Oh. And also, there was a story about Samsung with shoes and watches, but the conversation that we were having with the other stuff was just so
good.
Yeah, so it was like, yeah, maybe we'll do those some other time.
And you know we solved it all.
That's solved right.
It all. We could
it's
call
all
Tim
done.
And say, this is what you got to do this year. You got this. You got that. Don't do that.
Just this.
You gotta listen to us, Tim. That's how it works.
Listen to us.
Okay.
All right.
So let's see here. Warren, I don't have a lower third for you because you only thing you ever seem to say is contact me via Facebook. Are you still saying that?
I'm sitting on my lower third. If you want a picture of that.
So if you want to get a hold of Warren, you can
Facebook.
find him over in Back to the Future group or page.
Back to the Future Facebook page. It's
Facebook page.
We have some juicy topics.
We do. As a matter of fact, there was a big lively one going on today.
He answers every comment. I always when I'm following the group, I always see his name come up. So
I'm telling you,
Warren's?
never anywhere else. Yeah.
Oh yeah. Every time I get a notification to Back to the Future,
I feel like I'm the only person that does that. I should calm down.
Yeah, you are. So. You are the rock star of Back to the Future.
I'm like at work. You know, I've got Facebook on, but I can't always just sit there and go, "Oh, I can't believe Warren just said that."
That's why I do it.
All right, David. How can people, as soon as I can? Oh, darn it! I was all ready, and then I'm not. Here we go. How can people get a hold of you?
All right, you can get a hold of me on Twitter at DaveG65. I am on Facebook, but I'm not as public as Warren is. But,
as some people.
As some people. I do a podcast. Yes, I do. And Guy, you're overdue. We got to get you on soon.
Cool.
It's in touch with iOS, and I talk everything about iOS. Just had an episode with Josh Centers from Tidbits. So you have to go out there and go intouchwithios.com, take a listen to that. And then I also do a horse racing podcast, off the charts horse racing, and how ironic I'm going.
See, now we're starting to sound like the Wicked Witch of the West and the Wizard of Oz. I'll get you, my pretty, and you little dog too.
Going to Vegas to play the horses, and then actually this episode this week is actually going to be a best of that I just put together for what we call horse nuggets. We talked about four different topics about how to handicap a horse race.
Oh, I thought it was going to be about actually handling horse nuggets.
Poop. Yeah.
No nuggets.
Okay.
In that way, and then lastly, you can find me at the Suburban Chicago Apple Users. I'm president of the Apple User Group locally here in Chicago, and that's at myscau.org. Thank you, Guy.
Oh, you're very, very welcome. And if you would like to see if I can find the right button, there's the button. See, this is why I need a producer. If you would like to get a hold of me, all you have to do is contact me. Actually, I need to change that. It's not mttfgo.com anymore. I'm dropping all of those. It's just guy@mymac.com and Mac Parrot over on the Twitters. You can also reach me. Vert Shark over on the Twitters. And most everything I do, as a matter of fact, pretty much everything I do, I've been posting links to over at vertshark.com, so you can check that out there. If you'd like to help support some of the crazy things that I do, all you have to do, I have a Patreon page, patreon.com/MacParrot. And if you'd like to make a one-time donation, like so many people have, and thank you all so very much, it's over there at the coffee page, ko-fi.com/MacParrot. And I think that is going to do it for this evening. Thank you all for being on tonight, Dave and Warren. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.
And hopefully Mimo has recorded this entire thing. That it's failed me a couple times. Then I have to download it from Facebook, and the quality is just not nearly as good. But I think, I think that's going to about do it for this evening. So thanks to everyone who has stuck with us this evening. We really, really do appreciate it. And hopefully all three of us will see you next week right here on Wednesday night at 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on the Mac to the Future livecast. So say goodnight, Warren.
Yeah.
Come on, don't make me beg.
Oh, you can't put me on the spot. It's got to be spontaneous.
Okay.
Good night, guy.
Dave?
All right.
Good night, Dave.
Yeah, good night, Warren. Wait,
Good night,
no,
guy.
I don't know how to say that. Good night.
Good night.